Hello and welcome once again to Wokewatch. Today we'll be looking at two news stories, the first of which I think highlights the way that I think most people are sick to death of this poor me, I'm a victim, your words are hurting me woke bullshit. And the second demonstrates the way that woke activists use utterly disgusting double standards. Let's begin. First up, Netflix. And if you've seen this channel before, you'll know that in my opinion, Netflix is so inclusive. In all of their series, they are desperately ticking every fucking diversity box. But they also have the audacity to cater to viewers like me, who value content and entertainment over whether one of the cast is a differently abled pansexual adolescent unicorn. And I'm sure you'll recall that after The Closer, the most recent stand-up special by comedy genius Dave Chappelle aired, protests were held outside of Netflix's offices by trans rights protesters, their activists, and this included people who worked for Netflix. So now, Netflix has issued a memo to all of its employees explaining that working for the streaming service may mean that sometimes employees have to work on projects which aren't in line with their own personal values and standards. They then added that everyone who took part in the protest last year have been sacked, and I'm paraphrasing here, but words to the effect, if you don't like working here, feel free to fuck off somewhere else. And it was obvious that the protest wouldn't achieve anything, because the company has sided with Chappelle, the stand-up comedian making them millions of dollars, rather than the protesters, who looked like RuPaul's Drag Race if you'd ordered it from Wish. And here's the thing, if you get a job with the company and you don't agree with that company's ethics, values or standards, don't expect the company to alter its ethics, values and standards to fit in with your own ideology. For example, if you're a vegan, don't get a job at a fucking butcher's and then try and convince all the customers to give up meat. It's not the place to do it. And if you're a big fan of easy listening music, don't get a job at a heavy metal venue. And by the same token, I'm a metalhead, but I wouldn't go to the local music store and swap all the easy listening CDs and vinyl for copies of Jomsviking by Amon Amarth. So well done to Netflix for putting the eternally offended well in their place. But what was it that Chappelle said that sparked the protests in the first place? It was his jokes about trans women, and if you watched Wokewatch before, you'll know there's this toxic minority within the trans community that insists that trans women are the most oppressed people on earth and are therefore immune from any form of ridicule. For the last few years, a very common phrase among woke activists is silence is violence. Because back when I was a young man, if you wanted to prove, say, that you weren't a racist, then basically you didn't act like a racist or use racist language. That was good enough, but not now. Now you have to use your platform to speak up against racism. And I saw some mad woke TikToker saying that if you were witnessing a lynching and did nothing to stop it, then you would be participating in that lynching. Personally, I'd be stood there wondering what the fuck has gone on for this to escalate so quickly. So with that in mind, a prominent transgender activist who's given lectures on the oppression of trans women and written many articles is facing 16 felonies, including soliciting child pornography, corrupting a minor and male rape. Remember, silence is violence. Carlos Arturo Arapacio Hernandez, which I won't be saying again, is a 36-year-old trans woman or biological man who took to Facebook posing as a teenage girl, befriended a 15-year-old boy and struck up a relationship. And over a series of months, he got the minor to send him nude photographs and then invited him to its house, whereupon the victim realised what was going on and Hernandez allegedly forcibly sodomised him. Keep it light, Danny. Silence is violence. Where are the protests? Where are the hordes of trans people and their allies waving placards saying this sick fuck is not part of our community? Because I'm a straight white guy and I have to do it every fucking day. Every time Piers bastard Morgan opens his mouth, I have to explain, yes, we're both straight white men, but that man does not share my fucking views. So a comedian made some jokes and the woke community are up in arms, screaming, wailing and crying because a man said words. But one of their own is arrested for allegedly molesting a child, and there's nothing. And this for me is a big problem with wokeness. They're so obsessed with showing what fucking victims they are, how oppressed they are, even though most of the time they aren't, that they never bother to police their own fucking communities. But of course the anti-everything brigade, they won't be leaving their designated safe spaces to discuss a child molester being among their ranks. No, by now they'll be back on Twitter trying to find the next thing which they'll say is hurting their fucking feelings. As ever, thanks for watching.